everyone. Today I have the beautiful, beautiful Rush with me. I am very inspired by Rush. Her way of being is so beautiful. She's so loving. She's so magnetic. And I wanted to share her with you guys today. So Rush, if you don't mind, do you mind introducing yourself real quick?
Of course. Hello, everyone. Oh, and Wendy, thank you for having me here. So I am Rush Dorsett, and I am a voice coach, a singer, a sound healer, and I love what I do. And I feel very lucky to be able to say that now after years of, really finding my purpose and what lights me up and living the life that I want to live. So I'm just here to be of service and share my story in the hopes that it can inspire somebody and maybe offer an insight for somebody's life. So there we go.
Thank you so much for your generosity and just the reason why I felt inspired to really just bring you on and share you with my audience was because I just love your way of being. I love the way you glow. I love the way you show up, and you have been integral in my growth as well. So one of the questions that came up for me was what happened in your life, or have you always been this way? But if not, what happened in your life that made you be this loving, just this glowing, beautiful person?
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. Well, gosh, I'm just going to trust the very first thing that comes into my heart when you ask that question. I've never actually been asked that before. And something that I love about your question is that it's really offering me the opportunity to take responsibility for the kindness in my heart, and also to have gratitude for the people in my life that have contributed so much to my growth too. So it's really a both and in that way. So to answer your question, I would say the first thing that comes up for me is I have such a loving family. That's number one. I really am so blessed to have parents that love me. I have siblings that are my best friends. And obviously it's not all butterflies and roses. No family is gonna be perfect, and I've had plenty of things to heal from my relationships. However, I will say that everything was grounded in love, and so love is one of the first things that I ever knew. And I think that it's empowered me to be able to give that back in the world. At least that's my hope and intention, is that I can overflow it. So that's the first part of the answer. I would say the second part of what's really supported me in shining my light, so to speak, is the spiritual work that I've been doing. And I really have been working at it, and enjoying that work. But the main things that have supported me are my yoga practice. I practice yoga every single day, and it helps me to align my chakras and release any of the ego, stories, the fears, the limitations that would make my heart, close and contract and make me want to play small. Yoga actually really helps me on a cellular level to release that and be open in my heart, and to be able to move forward without that fear holding me back. That's the first part. The second part is my meditation practice that's a daily practice as well. And of course, just all the spiritual studies that I've done. I've worked with incredible teachers, and I'm happy to talk more about that in detail, the types of trainings and things I've done. If it's helpful for anybody, I'm happy to share about that too.
Yeah, thank you for that. And real quick, I heard you say that love was a key ingredient.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In allowing yourself to flourish and really go out and be a light for the world, right? And it's so interesting because in my own personal life, I found the same thing, that I had to center myself around love first.
Yeah.
In order to be able to just let my being shine. So I love that you share that. And then you said spirituality. So spirituality, meaning you now have a relationship with something, with the higher intelligence, with the higher power. Or can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, totally. That's my favorite thing to talk about. But yeah, I do want to reflect back to you what you just said that I thought was so powerful, is that, love is a choice. We are choosing to open our hearts to it, and everybody has the capability to do it. And fortunately, there are tools that support. So that segues into, my relationship with Source and, higher power through my spiritual practice. And so Yeah, I mean, most recently, I've been taking classes with the Modern Mystery School. And so that's actually a long lineage of spiritual practices that is a universal. So it's not religious in any sense. It's just a universal set of tools that allow you to structure your energy so that you can connect. So like all your chakras are in alignment so that you can connect and get that clear guidance and that light coming in from source. And so, there's a modality called sanctuary meditation, which I love to practice. It's basically like you're going into your sanctuary within in your meditation, and you're able to talk with your higher self and connect with your higher guidance. And so you can choose to actually live your life from that place of your higher self rather than, what can happen sometimes, which is like from ego. And
Right.
so that's my, like, every single day, my practice is, okay, how do I discern between my higher self and my ego? And it's like this game that I'm playing every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the main tools that I use.
Yeah. So I'm hearing like there's this differentiation of essence and of ego.
Yes.
So having a healthy relationship between that. Because do you ever say that your ego will ever go away?
Not as long as I'm a human. So probably not. And I think, the ego, my relationship constantly is evolving, of course. And the funny thing is, maybe some of the listeners can relate to this, is that like as you ascend and you're like learning more about yourself and you're opening your heart, your ego gets smarter and it like wants to catch up and it wants to kind of sabotage you in these subtle ways, right? Like it'll talk you out of things, or it'll say, oh, you're not enough because of this, or what, all the ways that the ego likes to, play. And so, I like understanding that relationship, practicing discernment, using the tools has been the number one thing. And yeah, what was the other part of your question? I actually forgot.
I got so carried away with like what you were saying, but no, let's roll with it. So we were talking about ego and essence, right? Yeah. And then creating that discernment. I find that at the beginning of my journey, I had a hard time discerning. So I'm sure there's people that may be able to relate. How do you learn how to discern? Like if you don't know and you've always been in confusion or overwhelmed, how do you learn how to discern?
Wow, that is the golden question, right? So actually, to answer that, I want to share a story because I feel like people relate to stories and you can learn a lot. So I'll just share with you, my personal vulnerable story about how I've been practicing discernment. So it goes back years ago. Actually, when I first met both of us have the same coach, Julie Surratt. She was my first life coach, and this was like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago when we met. And at the time, I will never forget, I was on the phone with her and she was having an enrollment conversation with me, like standing for my vision, because she saw something in me that I couldn't see at the time. And I remember saying to her on the phone, I was like, Julie, I just feel like I am literally lost at sea. I just feel like there are so many directions I can go, but I don't even know which one to choose. I feel confused. I feel overwhelmed. I feel like I know that I'm meant for something more, but I literally don't know which one it is, and I don't know how to get there. Like, even if I did know, like, I don't even know if it's possible. So as you can see, like, this is my old self. I was really feeling like I was in the ego, like I was in the overwhelm. I was in that space of just like, oh my God, everything's hard. Why does it have to be so hard? Yeah. So, and I didn't believe in myself. I was listening to a lot of like evidence that I was like, oh, I'm not good enough for X, Y, and Z reasons, all kinds of things, right? So fortunately, the story gets better because, it was really, working with a coach and having somebody to actually reflect back to me, hey, this is your ego, and what I'm actually hearing you say is that there's a higher calling for you. Like there's actually your greatness. And so what it took for me was somebody actually seeing my greatness before I could see it. And having somebody that I could really trust. And what that coach also showed me how to do was a 3-step process of doing yoga, doing meditation, visualization about my vision. And so what I learned in that process was the power of focusing my attention away from limiting beliefs, not even believing that they're true. They come up and I'm like, oh, I don't need to believe that. And actually shifting my attention to a vision that inspires me. So Wendy, what I like to pare it all down, I would say what it really came down to was understanding within my own body the feeling of being inspired and open and following that guidance and actually choosing to trust that sensation rather than trusting the sensation of contraction and like grinding and anything that just feels like contraction. So it actually came into my body's wisdom and my intuition, learning how to like understand those signals. To me, it was like sensations in my body. To other people, it could be different things. We all have different psychic abilities, so to speak. So some people like hear a voice, they start to discern, and I do now, they start to discern between that like little voice that's just so loving and clear, but subtle. So you really have to learn how to listen to it and attune to it. Whereas the ego is like, rah, 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 like you shouldn't do that, rah, rah. It's like yelling at you, right? And so when that tone of voice comes in, you can understand, oh, I know that that's actually my ego. I don't really need to listen to that. I don't need to believe that that's true.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my story. And then I'll just share briefly where that led me, on my path, because once I started trusting this expanded feeling, this inspired feeling, trusting my vision, I decided to actually take action on it. And so where that led me was following my dream to move to South America and like learn Spanish and sing in an ensemble and all kinds of things that I did there. And then I eventually applied to music school, pursued my master's degree and became a voice coach, which is, I never thought that I'd be able to like make a good living teaching singing and also coaching. I love life coaching as well. So I never would have thought that was possible for me. And it's really because of these tools. So yeah.
Yeah, I heard something that you said, that you mentioned was that was very integral, was that embodiment, like that way of being, like who do you get to be to create the life that you want?
Right. Oh, so good. Exactly. Embodiment.
Yeah, I love that. And then I wanted to ask, so just kind of like clinging on to what you had just said, was this the moment in your life where you felt that it was your rock bottom, like where you were just like,
oh, yeah,
taking me in different directions and I don't know what to do?
Oh yeah. I would say that was definitely my rock bottom. I mean, I'm laughing about it now, but at the time it was extremely painful. I was crying most days. I had just had a really hard breakup with a partner that I thought was my partner. I was between jobs. I didn't have an income coming in. I was like living with my parents at the time and feeling like, what in the heck? Like I know that I'm meant for something more, and I just don't even know. And it was so interesting too, Wendy, because I always knew that I loved singing, and I always knew that I loved empowering people, and that I was great at giving advice, and that I was a good person. I knew that about myself, but I was so closed off, like my ego was so strong that I couldn't even see the possibility of pursuing those things as a career. I wouldn't even let myself go there and dream about it, because I was like, well, obviously there's no way I could make a career doing those things. How interesting is that? And then once I started to open up, and it was through the practice, and again, having a coach to like hold my hand and support me through that process and be like, hey, by the way, like you are choosing to trust your inner guidance, and I'm gonna, be with you while you're doing this and support you with that. Like that was everything to me at the time. Yeah. And that's what got me through and had me like trust that I could take action and I would be held. Like the universe was going to catch me in that beautiful like embrace.
Yeah.
And I felt, and I got evidence of that, like the synchronicities that began to happen in my life, the flow, the joy, the like connections and new relationships. I mean, the way things unfolded, I mean, I still get chills thinking about it because it brings me to tears, because the level of love that the universe, God, source, whatever you want to call it, has for us, and how much, once we get into alignment with that, like we truly are supported and held. And so I actually got to see that intangible evidence. Like it wasn't just an idea anymore or a concept that I thought sounded nice. It was like, wow, I'm seeing these results in my life. I'm seeing this unfold. So it gave me confidence. It gave me evidence that I could continue to follow my inner guidance and things would be turning out great.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a huge turning point for me.
I got chills in my body. I'm like, yes, preach it, because I feel that. And, you know, just to kind of like piggyback off of what you said, for me, it has been something so similar. Like these thoughts, these concepts, until finally I'm seeing them unfold in my own life. And I'm like, wow, okay, the embodiment works, trusting, surrendering, like it works. You just get to tap into that essence, like putting like not believing everything that your ego says. Like you get to trust and surrender, and that everything is going to work out, and that you're being held and supported. Like even right now in this moment, we're in this chair, you're in a chair, right? You're being supported.
So supported. And when you're present with that, I love like what you surrender. That word is so key. And a book that actually got me through that hard time was The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. And I remember reading that book, and in essence, what it talks about is the power of practicing surrender and just being present in each moment, and watching how, you know, things unfold from that space. And the story of his life is incredible. But I started to apply it in my own life, and I did my own surrender experiment where I basically said to myself, okay, all right, Rush, you're gonna practice surrender and total trust just for this month, like just for right now. Let's just give it a go and see what happens. And then that month would go by and I say, okay, like things are flowing, things are back. I'm going to try it again. I'm going to keep going. And it was just like baby step by baby step. So, you know, this transformation of me living my life's purpose didn't just happen overnight. I mean, it was a process. It was an unfolding, but it was, and that's the beauty of it though, right? Is that we learn through that process and that willingness. And another thing that I just feel called to share right now, and maybe this is for somebody listening that I'm like, ooh, they need to hear this, is I remember at the time when I was just about to book my one-way ticket to South America and like start a whole new life. And I remember talking to, she was actually my trigger point therapist, which was like, because I had an injury at the time. So she was really intuitive. And so we were having this conversation, and she was telling me about this like spiritual, these breakthroughs that she was having. And at the time I was like, I don't know what that, like, I don't talk to God. I don't know how to talk to God. I don't even know how. And I remember asking her, I was like, well, how? Like, how do you connect? Or like, how do you just surrender? Like, how? I don't even know how. And I remember her answer to me. She said, you just do it. And I was so pissed. Like, I was so angry about that answer. I was like, you're not like, you can't just teach me how to do it. Like, that's the stupidest answer ever. I was like, I want to know. And she was like, you just have to do it. Like, you just have to try. Yeah. You have to be willing at least, and you'll figure it out. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to try. Yeah. But through that trying, I started to slowly figure it out and started to understand, oh, that's my intuition, or like, oh, that's my higher self. That's God. Yeah. So again, unfolding, it didn't just come to me in like a revelation, which I feel like that's what I wanted at the time. I just wanted the answer. I wanted to figure it out.
Yeah. I hear like sometimes in order for you to go faster, like one of my other coaches says this too, like in order to go faster, you need to slow down, right? So like we're in us trying to find like all these answers, like I want them right now. It's like, no, slow down.
Wow.
Right now, get present.
Totally. Oh, it takes so much trust to do that too.
Yeah.
Slow down. But then again, it becomes easier over time as we continue to practice it. So now I'm at the point where, you know, if I feel my energy is out of alignment, you know, I can feel it right away. Like I can feel like, oh, wait, that's a fear-based thought. I'm not going to do that. You know, most of the time I can catch it. You know, obviously I'm practicing like everybody else on the planet, and I'm not perfect by any means. I have a long way to go for my enlightenment, right? But I can humbly say that like I'm doing the work to choose to practice that discernment. And so now I'm at the point where I can be like, oh, I'm going to shift my energy. so that I can get back into that inspiration. So like over and over again, every single day, it's like, okay, let's be diligent about this. Let's be rigorous about this, because my mindset and my embodiment, just like you were saying, is the most valuable thing that I have. Like it is the way. There's this saying, you and I both took a leadership training, a transformational leadership training. And one of the things that they say in that training is the formula for success is be, do, have, rather than do, be, have, which a lot of us are programmed. I used to be programmed to think that way of like, well, if I just do it, if I do the thing then and get the results, then I'll feel a certain way and then I'll have what I want in my life. But actually, it's the opposite. It's a little counterintuitive, but you be it first. You feel it first. You get into the vibration of, let's say you want to manifest abundance. You feel abundant first.
Yeah.
And using the tools, again, yoga, meditation, all these tools that we have. And then from that place, you're in alignment, and then you can take action based on that alignment. And that creates so much more light and ripples light and love into the world. And then finally, you receive from that place. So yeah, I would say that actually that formula we just went full circle into your first question, Wendy, about like, what helps you be a light in the world? And it's that.
Yeah.
It's actually that. You do have.
Yeah. And then this is leading up to my next question, which is sometimes people, when they in terms of like being, like we are human and we feel angry, we feel upset, we feel sad, we feel all these emotions that people have labeled as bad. But would you say that we can allow ourselves or give permission to feel those emotions and at the same time feel joy, happiness, and like all these great I mean, not to label them, right? But like these other emotions that we really want to be in?
That is such a good question and so important, because I feel like, in the spiritual community, there's this like a lot of times spiritual bypassing that can happen when we're like, well, to manifest what I want, I have to be in a high vibration. So that means that, whenever anger or something negative or low vibe comes up, like, oh, I can't feel that because that's going to sabotage my manifesting. But that's actually a fear-based thought on the emotions. Mm-hmm. Right? So yes, to answer that succinctly, yeah, there's space for feeling and processing your emotions. It's very important. And another tool that I've learned from other amazing teachers is a technique called emotional release. So it's a whole modality. So anybody listening, like, Google, look it up, emotional release. It's super important. And just to be raw with you, I use it all the time. So for example, if I have anger or rage about something, and I think everybody has, we hold rage in our bodies, right? We need to release it. So, and I find it really empowering. So I have a whole playlist on Spotify that's called Emotional Release. And it's all this metal and rock music and all this crazy music where I'll just put it on and I'll just be banging or yelling into a pillow or anything to literally process my emotions. And I know that might sound crazy to people because they're like, oh, Rush is so nice and gentle or whatever. But actually, I have things that I'm working through and I'm releasing them, but releasing them in a healthy way. So it's not directed towards anybody. It's not directed towards myself. It's allowing the emotions to move. And it's actually an act of love when we give ourselves that space to do it. And we think about ourselves as kids, they get upset, they wail, they cry, and then they let it go. And then it's over. And then they shift and they're back in their joy and their lightness. So they come back into balance. And so we get to do that as adults. Yeah. We really do get to create that space for ourselves. And a little fun fact is that emotions, they tend to take about 15 minutes to process through our whole system. Oh. So because there's a whole hormonal cascade that happens when we're feeling emotions. And so a really sure sign that you're processing your emotions in a healthy way is when you feel it fully, you process it, you cry, you do whatever you need to do to let it go. Sometimes that's journaling. You release it, and then you're back into your lightness again. But if after that 15 minutes, you're still holding on to that negativity, that probably means that you have an emotional attachment that is unhealthy, that you can actually do some deeper healing work around. So I'm just sharing that little fact because it's normal to have emotional waves, to feel them and let them go and not let them stay a part of you. But yeah, if you're holding on to something, it's a good sign to do some deeper release around it.
Yeah. So it's just I heard like allowing whatever is coming up and not putting like judgment or fear on it. Like, hey, like it's totally normal. Allow it and just let it process.
Yeah, and you don't need to make up stories about it. I think that's where we get into trouble is when our ego likes to like say, oh, we're having an emotion. That must mean this, and then making up all these scenarios like, well, I should say this, and they didn't say that, and you should do that, and blah, 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 right? And the ego starts to create all these stories and scenarios about what that emotion means and why it's not okay and all the things. And so if we can actually just not go there with our story making machine and if we can just actually just stay in our raw heart, our raw emotion, and actually just feel the emotion for what it is and just let it pass through us, that is just going to be a really healthy way to keep our hearts open rather than like, closing them up. We just let ourselves be open, feel it, release it.
Yeah, and I find that if you don't really have like an emotional practice or you're not really familiar with your emotions, it can be really hard to just even feel the sensation, like without attaching the story to your emotions.
Yeah,
I've had experiences where I've been like angry and I can feel the anger. I'm like, oh, I don't want to feel that. But as I've been practicing like that, as I've been practicing like more how to be with my emotions, I found that when I process anger, it's just like allowing it in full acceptance to just be here, and I can feel it as an energy, but I also feel it as like being in my power. Like it's just energy that's processing through the body, and I don't have to make up a story. But I know that before it was because maybe a boundary was crossed that it made me angry, or there was some sadness underneath that. But just like really getting to the root of it. And what I found was that through grace and self-love and compassion, like it gets easier to navigate. So would you say that that's been a key ingredient for you as well, like self-love and compassion?
You said it so beautifully, Wendy. Yeah, totally. Understanding that it's actually powerful to have emotions, that it's something I can embrace. And because I agree with you, I used to feel like if I felt that anger or that sadness or something, I wanted to get away from it. And I was afraid of it. I was like, wait, this is too intense. I don't want to go there. This is inconvenient. Oh, so inconvenient to have emotions when I'm trying to do things, right? Right. So I just didn't want to go there. But now I agree with you. It's actually a radical act of self-love to give yourself that space to really feel it and really process it and understand that you are a powerful, worthy goddess, God, and you have, like, you're here for a reason. We are meant to have emotions, and there are a lot of spiritual teachers that talk about, emotions are our way of communicating with the universe. Like, it's part of having a soul. As a human, like, we have a soul. We're here to progress and evolve and ascend, and our soul needs to learn these lessons. So emotions are our way of doing that. So it's something to embrace. Emotional intelligence is awesome. And I'll add one more thing to that, which is that, as a musician and a singer and a voice coach, I love using sound and singing and creative flow to process emotions and to, tap into manifesting as well. So that's like one of my favorite parts about what I do also, is that it helps me with that.
Yeah, beautiful. Now, this leads me on to my final question. I think I had like the questions, but I think we integrated them all.
Yeah, it was flowing.
Yeah, we're flowing. So I was like, okay, it doesn't have to be too structured. Okay, thank you so much for sharing like all of this with me. It has been so wonderful. Now, I have a question. If you were to be able to put a message in a time capsule, and this time capsule was going to go to that version of you that was really struggling, that was really going through it, and was like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this, what would that message contain?
Ooh, good question. All right. First thing, again, I'm trusting my heart. Yeah. The first thing that comes through is I would tell myself, trust in the truth that the universe is conspiring in your favor. That truly the universe wants you to be successful. It wants you to be happy, and it's doing everything it can to bring everything into alignment so that you can have and experience that. You can experience heaven on earth.
Wow.
That's what I would tell myself, for sure. because I think it was the doubt and the lack of trust that was creating so much pain and suffering.
I resonate with that. And do you think your previous self would believe that?
I think that there would be a spark within myself, like a little voice that's like, I know that's true.
Oh.
And then the ego would have been like, no, it's not, blah, 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 everything's hard. But then that little voice inside would be like, I actually feel that resonance in my heart, that love that is, we're always connected to that love. Nobody is disconnected from that fully, because it is the universe. I mean, I truly believe in a loving universe.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we are one with the whole cosmos, right? Like if we really zoom out and connect with our true nature, I mean, we are part of this universe, so we are flowing with it. So all we need to do is actually align ourselves to that will of the universe to flow, and just come back into that trust. Yeah.
I hear life is happening for you. Trust and surrender again and again. I hear that. And then also like knowing that, yeah, everything is unfolding in your favor because you are life itself. It's expressing and then looks to continue to express and evolve.
Exactly. Life is expressing through you. You're just a vessel of it. So allow it to flow. Yeah.
And when you stop that expression, that life, it's like you're stopping life. So that's when you feel all those contractions, all those like, oh my God, I'm not where I'm supposed to be at. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that, because you're stopping life express.
Totally. Yeah. And there is a beauty. I mean, I feel like a logical question to ask about that would be like, well, why aren't we just flowing all the time? Like, if that's our nature, why do we have these egos in the first place that create so much pain? And, my thought about that, and this is also based on some of my, metaphysical studies that I've been doing, is really that like the contrast that we experience between our ego and our higher self is actually what allows us to learn and truly experience that joy of remembering again. And so it's actually like a really joyful process to shift over and over and over again.
Yeah. I hear like that contrast. Like, how would you know joy if you don't know sadness?
Exactly. It's all part of the same spectrum, like on the different polarity of it. So yeah.
Yeah, I love it, Rush. Oh my God, this has been so good. You have dropped so many gems, so many wisdom, and I'm like soaking in it. I'm like, yes.
Oh, thank you for creating the space for this conversation. I mean, really, like you sourced it, and you asked incredible questions. So I feel really, really seen. I feel really heard and acknowledged. And thank you for you're such a powerful coach and like holder of space. So incredible work that you're doing here. So thank you.
I totally receive it.
Receive it as I am a goddess. We get to receive it.
So, yeah. Rush, if people want to get to know you more, or they would like to work with you, or are just interested in following you, where can they find you?
Totally. Yeah. So my website is rushdorsett.com. Super easy. On there, I have all kinds of things about my one-on-one voice coaching, as well as my group program, which is for women who are ready to own their voice and express their gifts in the world. So you're welcome to, send me a message about that. I also have an Instagram following. So it's, again, just Rush Dorsett on Instagram. Super easy. And on there, I post all kinds of things about like my spiritual journey, about voice, about all kinds of things. So those would be the best ways. And again, my email is also rush@rushdorsett.com. So you can always send me a message there too.
Yes, beautiful. You guys, Rush is a gem. So if you feel called, like take action because she's such a beautiful soul, and you would not regret having her in your life.
Oh, thank you, Wendy. Well, I must say the same about you. Anybody would be lucky to be in your presence and work with you. So yeah.
I'm like always soaking it. Yes. Well, if anything resonated with you guys, like let us know in the comments below. Like, what did you like the most? What resonated? What spoke to you? And follow Rush Dorsett, and then don't forget to follow. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. And that notification bell so that you're notified whenever there's a new video. So sending you guys so much love.
So much love. Mwah. Thank you.
Bye.